going to show you guys how to make homemade tomato sauce. So as you see here, I have quite a bit of tomatoes. You don't want to make homemade tomato sauce if you don't have ripe tomatoes. So my tomatoes I've had for a couple of days now and they've gotten pretty ripe. What you could do is if you do get tomatoes and they're not soft and ripe, I recommend getting them and leaving them out. Don't put them in the fridge because they'll just get cold and hard and they'll take longer to ripen. If you want to keep them and make tomato sauce, you can buy them and then just leave them out for a couple of days and then they'll slowly start turning more red and cherry red. Tomato sauce is also made traditionally when tomatoes are more in season, but since I have so many tomatoes, I have to do something with them, so I'm going to show you how to make my sauce. So the first step in preparing my sauce is roasting the garlic. So what I do is you just cut the first top part of the garlic. So this bottom part here, where the root is, you leave. Straight cut right down the middle. So now you can see the individual cloves all around. So you take off the tip, and then what I do is I just simply take aluminum foil, I take some olive oil, and I just drizzle lightly over the cloves, some salt, and some pepper. And then you just pop it in the oven for about 40 minutes. So I'm not going to put this all in my oven because I have a toaster oven and it does just the same job, but if you don't have a toaster oven, then you could just put it in the oven. So when preparing the tomatoes, you're going to wash them. So you take a tomato and under cold water, you just lightly wash the outer layer of the tomato. Okay. So the first step is, before you start actually cutting the tomatoes, the best thing to do is to start heating your water. So in a deep pot, if you're making a big sauce, I would use a bigger pot, but I'm not making that big of a sauce, so this is a good size. You just, as you can see probably the steam coming out, you just boil some water. So my water's boiled, and what we're gonna do is, the water is not for the sauce, it's only just to help take the skin off the sauce. So the first thing you do is you wanna take a small little knife and just cut this part out of the tomato. Then you just wanna make a little X or a little cross on the end of the tomato. So you do that for each tomato. So my tomato that is ready, I have a separate pot here that I'm just gonna place them in as the ready tomatoes. So the reason why we put this little cross or this little X is that when it comes out of the water, we'll just simply peel the tomato skin right off, so we'll have this as our base for our sauce. Okay, so now what we're gonna do is I'm gonna open the lid of the boiling water, and the tomatoes that we peeled, I'm gonna slowly start putting them in. But I have to be time sensitive because it can only be in here for the most 30 seconds. Because if you're really not trying to cook the tomatoes right now, you just wanna kind of shock them just so the skin can come off. So we're gonna open the pot. Now, when you do this, make sure you have a bowl of ice water ready, because the second they come out, you have to put them in the ice water. Because if you leave them in the ice water too long, I've noticed your tomatoes will get watery, and you don't want to have watery sauce. If you follow this specifically, you'll have amazing homemade tomato sauce. And there's nothing better than a nice homemade tomato sauce. Okay, so now I'm ready. I'm gonna put in 4 at a time. And I have a timer here, so in 30 seconds, I'm gonna pull them out. Okay, it's been about 30 seconds, so I'm gonna take out the tomatoes, and I'm gonna put them right away in the ice water. Blanching all the tomatoes. We're going to take each tomato individually and we're going to slowly peel off the skin of each tomato from the four corners of the little X that we made. So this is peeling out, coming off really nicely. It should be like a quick process. So it would look something like this. When we're done, we're gonna put them all in a bowl, and then after we're gonna crush them up and I'll show you the next step. Okay, so for this next part, you're gonna probably wanna put either an apron on, or if you have long hair, put your hair back, because you're gonna be working with your hands and the tomatoes will like splatter and you don't wanna get them on your clothes. So because this bowl is not big enough for all of these tomatoes, I'm just gonna separate them in both pots. So now these are all completely peeled. And all we're gonna do is in this part is we're just gonna squeeze each tomato. So you're gonna just squeeze it. I'm showing it like this to you so you can see it, but you're gonna work with your hands and just squeeze everything and get all the juices and the seeds out. So after we crushed all the tomatoes, okay, it doesn't have to be perfectly crushed. You can still have big pieces like this, but you just wanna kinda get all the juices out. So if you could see here, there's like a juice consistency. So I put gloves on because I really had to work the tomatoes and get into it. If you want, you don't want to put gloves on, you don't want to use your hand, you can use a masher, but for me it's just easier just to use my hands. So for this next step, what I usually do is I take some salt, I would say about a tablespoon, so I'll measure a tablespoon, and I just put the tablespoon of salt in the tomatoes and I just mix it. I find that when you put salt on tomatoes by itself, the salt will really take out all of the water in the tomato and it'll give it a really nice flavor. Even though we put salt in the sauce anyway, I like to put it in this step also because I feel like it does plump up the tomato. So if you did, let's say, have a tomato in there that wasn't as ripe, it'll bring up the ripeness of your tomato. So now even I could see like the color, it's getting a little bit more foamier and softer, which is a good sign, is what you kind of want. And then while I mix this, I'm gonna prepare my vegetables for the sauce. Okay, so now we're gonna prepare the vegetables for the sauce. So what I like to do is, for my sauce, I always put carrots and onions, garlic and basil. So the garlic we roasted, it came out, it's beautiful. I'm gonna show you how to take it out of the cloves. And I'm gonna show you how I wash my carrots. So my mom used to always tell me that when you cook with carrots, like in a sauce or a soup, you should leave the skin on the carrot because it actually has all the vitamins in the actual carrot in the skin. So, I mean, you'll still get benefits from a carrot without the skin, but she said that most of the vitamins were in the skin. So what I like to do is I just like to clean the skin really, really well. So what I do for this is, in this bowl here, I have some apple cider vinegar, and I dip my vegetable brush that I use, and I just scrub really well the carrots with the apple cider vinegar, and I run it under hot water. It looks just like you would have peeled it, so there's no dirt, nothing on it. The scrubber will remove all of that. Okay? Big chunks of carrot like this. So cutting the onion, what I do is I do a grid. So I'll cut not too deep down. And then I'll turn it and I do a grid on the other side. And then I'll turn it to its side and I just lightly chop, and you'll get perfectly chopped up pieces like this. It's really easy and really quick. Now that all the onions are chopped, I only use 2 onions for this sauce because I don't have that much tomato sauce, and it came out a lot. And I used 2 carrots and I chopped them in half. Okay, so now we have the garlic. All you do is you just slowly push out, and it kind of has like a paste texture out of each clove. So the garlic came out looking like this. We just squeezed it all out. And now we're back here on the stove top. So the first thing you do is obviously you turn on the stove and you get the pot nice and hot. Normally I just pour this in, but I'm gonna measure it for you. So let's start with 1 tablespoon. I put about 3½ tablespoons of olive oil, and you're gonna get the olive oil nice and hot. You just want to make a thin layer on the bottom of the pan. And the first thing we're gonna put in here are the onions and the carrots, completely inside. Okay, I'm just gonna make this get all hot, and it should be good. So I'm putting the carrots, and you can hear it sizzling. You just want to sweat the onions. Now that they've been sweating for just a little bit, I'm going to take a little bit of salt, because I already have salt in the sauce, so don't forget, you don't want to put too much salt. And you can always add salt in the end. So I'm just going to sprinkle a little salt just to bring out the flavor of the onions. And I'm going to crack just a little pepper. A little bit. So now that the onions have a nice soft looking texture, I'm gonna add some red wine. If you're making just straight tomato sauce, I would just do simple garlic, basil, tomato, and then jar, and then you could just use that as like a base. But this I'm gonna be making for, you know, just pasta and tomato sauce. I kind of want to have my sauce ready. So I'm going to put some wine. It doesn't matter what kind of wine, just a dry red wine. And I'm going to put a little less than half the bottle. So that should be about half the bottle. And now you just want to cook the wine in carrots, blending it. So now that they've become more of like a caramelized look, I'm ready to finish and put the rest of the spices in. So I have some fresh basil here, a whole bunch of basil in. I put about a teaspoon of oregano, because I love my oregano. I take a little bit paprika, just, I would say about 1/4 of a spoon of paprika. And then the ingredient that I love to use instead of sugar is honey. I don't put a lot of honey because I don't really like sweet tomato sauce. I just like a subtleness. You do need some sort of sweetness when you have like a salty base, so honey is what I do like to use. just do a little bit of honey, about a teaspoon. And you just want to stir it all together. And it smells amazing. So the final step after this would just be putting in the tomatoes. Oh, and the garlic. So I have the garlic here. At this point you would also put the garlic in, our roasted garlic. This is going to give a nice richness to the sauce, especially because in the end I'm going to emulsify and blend everything together. So you won't really see the onions and you won't see the garlic, and I'm going to take out the carrots. So this is all blending really nice. Our crushed up fresh tomatoes. So you want to slowly put it inside. And then you'll hear that it stopped sizzling because now we added something cold. And we just want to slowly incorporate everything. These tomatoes have such a beautiful red color, and they're going to cook down with the onion and the garlic and the basil, and it's going to be amazing. So we just want to incorporate all of this. And then we're going to leave it on the stove for about an hour on really low heat so that all the flavors and all the spices and the herbs and everything that we put will blend in with the tomatoes, and you'll have a perfect tomato sauce. What I like to do, especially since I'm only one person and my husband, we're only 2 people and we're quarantining, I will take some jars that I have that are empty. I'll wait for this to be completely cool, and then I will put them in my freezer. And in the freezer, fresh tomato sauce lasts about 3 months. So it's nice because if, let's say, I want to make a lasagna or patty alla vodka or something quick, I could just take out my sauce and I'll already have it ready. If you don't have fresh tomato sauce, you could always make a tomato sauce with canned tomato sauce. I just recommend buying whole peeled or crushed tomatoes in the can. It makes a very big difference in your sauce. And cover it. And then every couple of minutes, now in the beginning, we'll check it, we'll stir it, and then we'll leave it. It's been about 20 minutes now. And you can see the color of the sauce has a nice orangey look. You can see the oils from the beginning is coming onto the top. And you just want to mix it. You don't see at all any of the red wine. It smells amazing. We keep the sauce on low, the heat, and we let it sit for about 30 more minutes. And we'll turn it again after 30 minutes. The sauce now has been simmering, slow cooking for about an hour. I let it sit on the stove for about 10 more minutes, and then now I brought it here onto my cutting board. So I'm going to show you how the sauce comes out. It looks absolutely amazing. Now, what you could do is, we're going to immersion this sauce so you're not going to see anything in here. If you'd like, you could keep the carrots in and blend the carrots, or you could just take them out. I like to take them out because I actually do like to eat these. And if you want more of a red sauce, I would take them out. If you want an orangey tint, then keep the carrots in. So, completely done. So exciting, very long process, but well worth it. The sauce is great, has a great thickness to it. It's not watery. It has a little bit of an orange tint because I kept some of the carrots in there and I immersioned it. Again, put the carrots or not as much. And if you want even more of a red color, you can add tomato paste. But I did it just completely based on the tomatoes that I had, and it came out great. Again, I did this for only about an hour and 15 minutes on the stove. and just the process in general of doing the tomatoes and peeling them, blanching them, all of the carrots and cutting all the vegetables is about a 2.5, 3 hour process. So I highly recommend doing it with someone, but like I have all the time on my hands now because I'm in quarantine, I have no problem showing you my sauce.